You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, SPIKE, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's volatility reimagined. Learn more about Spikes at miaxoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution in trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Friday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. It is time once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever interesting, at least we think so, Options Insider Radio Network. Glad to see so many folks are embarking with us on the mad journey, the mad voyage. That is Options Insider Plus and Options Insider Pro. See some folks join us right before the show, like John and a few others. Welcome to all of you who joined before the show or earlier this week or whenever you joined us on this fun journey. It's been pretty much exactly a month now. It's hard to believe. It seems like in some ways it seems like it just started. Other ways it seems like it's been about 10 years because we're building all this crazy, cool, fun new stuff and putting out all these fun shows for you and doing all these Q&As and everything else like that. If you want to learn more, you want to get all the details in your hot little hands, theoptionsinsider.com/plus/pro are the places to go. /shop. I'll kind of break them both down side by side for you. Make it nice and easy for you. Doing some fun, cool stuff there, like Brian and I did an extra Q&A. It's going to hit the OPR feed next week. That's going to hit the Pro podcast feed exclusive. So if you missed the live stream, you can get it there. Going to get that early. So all kinds of fun stuff. Got oddities coming up later today. Man, whole slew of content coming for you folks on the Pro side. Glad to see so many of you are enjoying it. And we also enjoy hearing from you folks. So if you have questions or comments, hit us up. We do love to hear from all of you out there. And remember, if you like what you hear, keep rating and reviewing in your store of choice, wherever you get the programs. It really does help all these new folks out there who are seeing all this crazy vol stuff. Like, what is this? This is nuts. I'm with you. It's crazy. So they need a place to turn. give them that place. Rate and review it wherever you get the show. It really does help the new folks discover all the content. Let's see who we're hearing from on the show today. First, I'm pleased to say we're joined once again in the old MIAX hot seat by Mr. Tom JARCK, now the Vice President of Proprietary Product Development over there at MIAX. Tom, welcome back to Volatility Views, sir. It has been too long.
Yeah, it has been too long. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show today. Look forward to it. And the title changed back early April when I joined the MIAX group on a full-time basis. And again, looking forward to the show today.
And I hope you're ready to talk. So I got you scheduled for 48 minutes of solid vol analysis. Are you ready, sir?
Well, I can talk if you want.
Maybe 49. We'll see what we can squeeze in for you. All right. Well, we got to leave some room for this other guy here too. Also joining us on the show today, we got the rockingest of lobsters, now with his own cool new theme song, which I do have to admit, I was kind of humming to myself this morning. It is weirdly infectious. He is the rock lobster, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the program. And were you two humming your weirdly anti-American theme song, sir?
Yeah. So my question is, why did Leska have to give me the anti-American rock lobster? So it was kind of a case of bizarro land, but how many people have their own theme song? So I guess I got to take what I can get.
I was kind of surprised when your dancing rock lobster yelled "Death to America," but it was it was funny. Like, I don't watch. I think that's some Family Guy. I don't watch it, so I have no idea what the context is, but it was funny nonetheless and oddly catchy in its own weird way, kind of like this show. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, let's get to it. By the way, we got Mr. Unlimited in the chat saying he can't wait for the crystal ball. I wonder if any of the hosts or listeners predicted a 14 handle last week. Well, did you? Maybe I had some listeners predicting stuff. Were you one of them? I'm guessing from your question that you probably were. Oh, yeah, looks like we have it here. You were at 1492. So, looking all right for you so far, Mr. Unlimited. But the show is young. We have learned in the past. Of course, you also have learned from me, which is claim victory early when you can. So I give you a feather in the cap. You've obviously been listening to the show for a little bit. We got a ways to go till we get to the crystal ball there, but looking good so far out there. Let's see if the worm can turn, if the worm will stay in this direction, because we are seeing a lot of green on the market screen today, listeners. Pretty much all the major indices getting a nice little lift off the numbers before the showtime today. So we have S&P actually kind of tied with the NASDAQ for a change. Both of them up a little over 0.6 of a point. The Dow closing in on up 0.5%. And so a lot of green on the screen out there today. 0.6%, obviously, for the S&P and the NASDAQ. That means vol products taking a bit of an exhale. Of course, we're also heading into the long holiday weekend, so that's all weighing on them as well. Spikes kicking off the show is at about exactly a 15. Puts it down actually only about a quarter of a point from where it was this time last week. So we had a lot of living packed into that 15 handle for the better part of the week out there in Spike Slam, and now net down about a quarter. VIX Cash kicking off the show is at about a 14.5. That puts it down about 0.75 of a point from where it was this time last show. And VVIX, aka the Vol of Vol, at 105, which is almost exactly unched from where it was this time last week. All right, Mr. Tom, we are all set. We are buckled in for our 48-minute extravaganza. What do you have to regale us with today? What is lighting up your tape in the world of volatility, and indeed what has been since your last appearance, sir? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, definitely. So if I could, I just wanted to chat a little bit about what's going on, on the exchange front, if that's okay.
No, that is not okay. You're dead to me, sir. No, have at it.
Well, we've been really busy, so a lot of things going on. I just want to and I'll speak quickly about it, but we've been working hard on a new futures incentive plan for Spike's Futures, which basically went live yesterday, where we've got a lot of liquidity providers signed up and, well, not signed up, but participating, and just, so we should see some decent liquidity and some hopefully some changes in that market. That's been something something we've been working on hard. We added a link to the Quick Strike to the MIAX options website where you can get Spikes analytics for free.
Are you using that bastard Nick software? I will not have his name spoken on my network, sir. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll leave the names out of it.
I'm just kidding. We use it all day on our TWIFO program. It's actually good stuff. I'm glad to see more people are using the Quick Strike platform.
Yeah. So he's, so we set him up with basically a link for just Spikes related materials for free via the website. That shift has been taken off. I heard last there's over 70,000 subscribers to it, so that's a pretty good good takeoff.
Which I have to say, I think we're single-handedly responsible for 60-odd thousand of those right here. I mean, all the love coming from our listeners. It's been kind of overwhelming. People are pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for you had Saad on the show. I think last week. It was great. Yeah, thank you. And and then one other thing too. There's just talking on Spikes really. Is there was a filing for an ETF, two ETFs, one on the 1 times long and one is 1.5 times long. So we hope to see those come to market in the near future, and those will be using Spikes futures as their holdings. So that's some of the things that are going on the exchange front. Market share for the MIAX has been hovering around that. I don't know what the June results are, but last in May was around the 15% mark on the multiple listed products. And then we have, as an owner of Miami International Holdings, owns MGEX, which is the futures exchange out in Minneapolis. They've had some record volumes too. And Spikes is participating in that. So so it's been pretty good, pretty busy on that front. From a volatility perspective, it's just it seems like this market's been just equity markets grinding higher. Everyone's getting pretty happy, complacent. Vol selling has been, it seems like it's been out there pretty aggressive. We've seen vols trickling lower this whole last couple months. Comparing Spikes from a year ago, we were at 27.58 versus like a 15 today. So it's a pretty drastic changes in sentiment. The term structures are still pretty steep, so that's something that there's still anxiety about something in the future, maybe causing some noise. I don't personally see any catalysts here in the next few weeks, but usually when I don't see any catalysts is when you get them. So, I'll jump back in a little bit more with some more topics, but I'll turn it over to Mark if you want.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Very nice of you. Very nice of you to turn it over to me, sir.
Mark's got the day off. Yeah.
But you mentioned exchange really quickly. These numbers, we wanted them in on the option block yesterday, and we'll break them down in more detail coming up next week on the option block or maybe some of our other shows. But the OCC numbers, of course, coming in right after we finish option block yesterday. People wondering, can the party continue? And short answer is yes. June volume, 870.1 million contracts. That's the second most active month in the history of the OCC. I think February or March might have the number one spot up there. And that's up 32, almost 33% from June of 2020, which is already a pretty banger of a month. Their year-to-date ADV, 39.4 million contracts now, listeners. That's up 25% from last year. So we're on track. We're on tap for some action. We'll get to the futures side when we get there in a little bit as well. But first, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, when you're not screaming death, it's cracking me up again. You're not screaming death to America. What's lighting up your vol tape, sir?
I like now, I guess, on my Twitter feed. Although the Vol Man doesn't come very often on Twitter anymore. Too busy. But only of course on this show does he make his appearance. So we are going to close in the 14 handle for the first time in over a year. So that is, I think that's an event in itself.
Yeah, your 15 handle prediction, that's quaint, that's dated, that's old news, sir. We're at a 14 handle now. Deal with that.
All I know for listeners is that I did not lose this. That's okay. We'll wait for the end of the show. But as far as vol goes, I think you're seeing So basically what's happening for listeners, you got contraction at the money for vol. You got, the weekend, you have the holiday is in. The at the money calls for last week, the 433 calls for SPY, I think were they're like $1.40 now or something like that.
You're so excited that you've muted yourself, sir.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know how I did that. How did I mute myself? So, vol for next week, you've got with the weekend taken out is 690. So oh my gosh, I bought the 433s this morning for $1.13. They're $1.85. The vol was 6.5%. So actually, a little bit of juice has crawled back into them. I would say there. But they were, again, really, really, really like crazy cheap at the time. So you're seeing you can see by three. So we moved about $2.68 today. You can buy all until Friday expiration. You can buy the straddle for $3.50. So I don't know about anybody else, but that's about as low as an SPY or an SPX straddle can get. Even though we only have 4 trading days and they have taken the day out, that's still pretty low vol. And my guess, it's probably the low close for an at the money straddle for the SPX for this year. So just take that as you will. And I'll probably be buying some of it here toward the end of the show, and we'll see what happens next week. There is not a huge amount of penalty to carry it for 2 days. From a decay point of view. So at the money vol coming in like pretty aggressively because realized vol is shrinking, but no one is selling puts. So you have, we talked about this yesterday, you've got like pretty steep skew for out of the money puts, but no real buyers of at the money juice. So you have a kind of kinky looking curve. With vol at the money, and I think that's the trade. You want to buy the stuff at the money and sell all the stuff out of the money, and that's what we have for vol. So, and we are very close to. We're only 2 points away in VIX now from Zone 1, which we have not seen since January of 2020.
And what the hell is Zone 1? I've forgotten all about that. I need my Kenny Loggins music.
You have forgotten all about Zone 1, haven't you, sir?
I live in the danger zone, sir. I don't hang out in Zone 1.
Exactly. Like it's been danger zone for as long as we can remember. But $12.99 is not very far away. So anyway, if the realized vol keeps up like this, we'll probably see it. But I'm just looking at this as I see it. It's not very expensive vol one way or another, and it's super, super cheap. And also for those, like a lot of, equity vol 6 months out is now starting to get to levels that were year lows or even low for the last year and a half. So interesting pricing all the way around, starting to get like, this is so as the lower the VIX goes, the longer my duration goes buying stuff. And I just get more patient. You probably won't get a lot of action in the short term, but as we all know, 6 months might as well be a million years in volatility time. So when you can get those low vols as they start to get down there, it might behoove you to take a look at them. One thing I will say though, again, so VXX, those product vols are fairly low or getting to be year lows. But VIX vol is still like still around 100. It hasn't really broken down, and I think that's also a symptom of the downside curve and SPX and all the rest of that. They're all kind of linked. So I'm just saying. So again, at the money vol for those products, the vol products, again, relatively inexpensive, and then you sell all the stuff outside of it. And that's what we got right now. So an interesting vol market. And as the S&P 500 just keeps going up, right? I think it was 4,200 last week. I want to say not very long ago, because I'm looking at some of the vol trades I have on, and I'm like, I had 420 puts and 418 puts, and I could swear they're only like 3 handles out of the money when I put them on. And and now they're a lot more than that. So anyway, I think that's what we have basically. So, and normally you would have seen VIX go to 12 by now, but not in this market. So it is what it is. And but for traders looking forward, I think the bargain is still like near the money options in the S&P 500. I think they're starting to show some good value at this point.
Yeah, Mark, I was looking also at the on the Tuesday coming after the long weekend, what the straddle was. I think it was pricing up like 30 bips or so earlier, and then I was looking at the a couple of data points as well. Just the end of July straddle was around like 2%, a little north of 2%. Yeah, definitely some low levels. There was a big buyer, I think, earlier in the week. I think it was Wednesday in the SPY. What was it, the 441 calls or something? It was like 100,000 were printed. I saw. I thought that was pretty interesting. Surprised, vols didn't react a little bit more to from that trade that went on. But your point about like equity vol versus index vol, I always look at the 3-month correlation, and that thing's down to like a 30 now. It's just been getting so you could see some more pressure on some of the single stock vols, but you do have earnings going on right now, so it gets a little crazy. But yeah, it's pretty it's definitely getting down to that point where you might want to hold a little bit. And I was actually thinking the White House announced that we're saving 16 cents on our barbecues this weekend, so I might spend that 16 cents on some premium.
There you go. You can get some juicy VXX Jan 10 puts. They're still trading like around, I think, 11 to 12 cents now. So they're up about 20% since we started talking about those. But there you go. You could throw it all the way on some VXX downside if you want there, Mr. Tom. Just putting that out there. Just putting it out there for a rainy day as we keep on rolling. You know what's not really rolling a ton of right now are the futures out there in VIX. The numbers out of OCC. Remember, the pretty much only future they clear over there these days are the VIX futures. SIBO delisted their Bitcoin futures. Not a lot of other futures going up over there at OCC land. So their total futures cleared contract volume was 4 million, a little over 4 million contracts. That's about a 10% decrease from June of last year. So that kind of brings our surprising little streak of a couple of months there of VIX volume actually ticking up on the futures side to a disappointing conclusion there. So back down, the entirety of the pandemic, it was one of these strange aberrations to me in all this volume. We saw everything else exploding, volume exploding. VIX itself was exploding to the upside. VIX options volume were doing well. The futures, not so much. And all of a sudden, the last couple of months, we've seen VIX futures kind of tick to life a little bit and start increasing. And what was that? What was driving that? Was it volume had just gotten so low that they had to tick up, or whatever it was that was driving it? It seems like it's over for now. So interesting times out there. Let's see what's going on out there in the futures today. Coming into showtime, we had the July future. Go figure. It's down from last week, down almost 3.5 points. We have the Aug future down about 2.5 points, and the SEP future down about 2 points. So that's a bit of a squeeze. They're taking 2 points out of the SEP future out there. So Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts, on kind of the short-lived gains we had in VIX futures, at least year over year and month over month, coming to an end? Does that surprise you, or did you perhaps anticipate that? And then B, what are your thoughts on what's going on, particularly on the front portion of the curve out there in VIX futures land today, sir?
Well, I think you have you have this, all the front end vols are just getting, extremely low. And the way that VIX works, the lower the front end gets, because they're kind of forward vol futures, the lower the front end gets, the higher the back end will look, or the higher the back end vol gets. So you keep crushing the vol, and then, de facto, all the time spreads kind of, the back end's really high. So the lower the front gets without any kind of real sellers in the back, we're going to keep getting this curve going like this. So I think it does have a lot of opportunity, because you have that higher forward vol, and you can buy puts in VXX and stuff like that, and you could sell it. if you want, that August future relative is pretty high. So I'm sure I'll add more next week, right? I'll buy more SPY put spreads and buy more VXX puts next week, because that is just a fat bunch of balls sitting right there. And that's kind of my bread and butter arb I do when everything gets to this level. So I already nibbled on VIX this week, and I'll start working on VXX next week to see how things go. I don't gain much by doing it into the 3-day weekend, so I just wait and see what happens. So that, yes, that's, I think it's just more of a function of like all of that front end, like short-term vol is just getting real depressed. Because all we do is kind of are grinding up. But as far as like back end vol goes, like, so again, relative, all the back end stuff is going to look more expensive as the front end just keeps going lower and lower and lower. So, I don't think it will go away anytime soon. It also makes products like VXX just kind of crawl. The futures have a lot more work to move to make money on the upside. So it makes it makes calendar trading in VXX more interesting, because it's harder for it to go down. And as soon as it's harder for it to go down, to me, it means like calendar, like put calendar, stuff like that, generate some extra juice in the front. And like that's the trade you have now. So you can do a lot of cheap put calendars in VXX. They could pay decent money. But again, just a symptom of what we have. As far as future trading, I mean, you have to be realistic. Right? Like last year for VIX futures, the only thing I could say is I hope we don't have that kind of volume again, because it was such a dark and stormy time in the market. So, but a lot of opportunity, and a lot of people made tons of money, and then unfortunately a lot of people probably didn't. So, I would be surprised if we saw the kind of volume we did last year. Again, I remember July too, right? Everybody thought the COVID thing was over. And then, oh, surprise, they went into like re-lockdown. And I remember that was like, again, of course, I think there was some politics in that. But anyway, that's what we've got. And yeah, I don't think we'll see that volume for the VIX futures for a while.
Well, that's why I was so surprised that they actually ticked up the last couple of months. Everyone was waiting maybe for the return of whatever the new XIV clone is going to be to really kick that futures volume into high gear. But it seemed like it was starting to tick up on its own, and then not so much this month here. All right, Tom, you spend a lot of your days out there hanging out in Spikes futures land when you're not talking to us. What's been lighting up the tape, and what's going on out there in the land of Spikes futures, sir?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're still promoting the product. We're still getting the message out there. We're running this incentive program for the liquidity providers, as I mentioned before. But then for anybody to trade the product right now, there's no exchange fees. So it's there's still clearing fees, but it's basically free from a exchange fee perspective. So the volumes have been hovering around that 200 mark per day. We expect an uptick. Now we've really got the word out. And today I'm seeing almost 400 already. So it's something's working on a quiet day, on a quiet Friday. But no one's really quoting the back months yet. There's again, there's a lot of interest, but the interest wants to see things volume upticking a little bit. I did hear that someone had quoted one of our was looking to do like a spread versus VIX futures. So I did hear someone sniffing around about that. But overall it's picking up. We're pretty excited about what we're seeing, but it's a tick wide bid offer spread right now. I'm looking at like 50, 25 up or so. So we're getting there.
Glad to hear it. Let's see where we're getting out there in the land of Spikes. Options, pretty much the same. Guess you can call it kind of a five-way here, dominating the tape out here. You got this July 2230 vertical with, I guess, a 50 added surprise bonus there. Someone likes the 50 strike out there in Spikes options, which has always kind of perplexed me. Again, it looks like this 16-18 put vertical out here in Spikes. That's still kind of your top five position. That's still dominating the tape out here as we head into the long holiday weekend. Maybe some of this futures action out there, some of these futures incentives will drive even more paper out there. Maybe someone will take off these 50s. We'll see what's going on out there in Spikes land. You know, we ran our mid-year checkup. It's that time of year, listeners, to check in on all things Google search data for your volatility interest, everything else like that. We got those numbers here. Maybe we'll table those for now because we're getting a little bit later in the show. I want to make sure we get you guys on and get all the rest of the data crunch. So maybe we'll table those for next week and see what we have going on there. Coming into showtime now, VIX not really blowing the doors off from a volume perspective. Again, it's going into a holiday weekend. Some people have already gotten the heck out of Dodge. So we're seeing about 230,000 contracts on the tape as of a little while ago. That's not a heck of a lot of tape, even not a heck of a lot of paper, I should say, even with the ADV continuing to erode out there. Remember, it was north of 600. It was like 608 just a couple of weeks ago. Now it's down to 465. That's down about another 20,000 contracts from where it was this time last week. Let's do a quick rundown here. What's open? What are the size positions out there in VIX land right now? You can probably guess two of the top ones. They're still there. As Tom mentioned, a little bit of action on one of those. Maybe we'll get to those in a little bit. Cost you 147,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX land. That's getting a little bit loftier out there. I get you to the July 20s. By the way, there are, let's see, 2, 4, it's actually exactly 50-50 calls to puts out there right now. So that's an interesting thing. Puts have been leading the dance for a while out here. So maybe that perhaps an indicator that we have truly left the danger zone behind and we are drifting now into zone one, where you may actually be inclined to pick up some upside every now and then in VIX land. July 20s, either way, good for number 10, 147,000. Number 8, should be number 9, easy for me to read. Number 9, 158,000 of the July 21 puts. Number 8, $1.59 of the July 15 puts. Number 7, 171,000 of the first and only SEP in the top 10, the SEP 25s. Interesting choice. Number 6, $1.73 of the first and only November, the Nov 60s. Another interesting choice. Very interesting. Some might say optimistic. Number 5, 186,000 of the July 18 puts. Number 4, 221,000 of the July 17 puts. Number 3, here we get to the first leg of that vertical that's still hanging out there, the July 25s, 318,000. Yes, that spread is still open, listeners. Number 2, something sliding in between. What is it? 329,000 of the July 16 puts, and still the big dog out there, the July 40s, 389,000. Total of almost 8.5 million contracts open out there in VIX land. A little over 5, about 5.25 million on the calls and about 3.25 million on the puts. Let's get out there to see what's lighting it up out here this week. Pretty much this week was really one day. It was yesterday where all the paper went up. Not a ton hitting the tape today. 230,000 contracts. Your most active contracts are the July 15 puts, 13, almost 14,000 of those, followed by 13,000 of the July 22 calls, as 13,000 as well of the July 32 half. So maybe a bit of a vertical versus puts out here. Either way, that's your kind of, let's just do a top 3 out there today. Not a lot really lighting it up. Yesterday was where the action was almost 1 million contracts exactly hitting the tape yesterday, which is a rare thing in VIX, listeners. So they hit the 1M level. Nothing else this week came even close. And what was the big dog yesterday? Well, it was our old friend, the July 40s, dominating the tape out there. 200,000 of these going up yesterday. So that's pretty much almost, pick any other day this week, that's almost as much volume as the entire day, just in this one option, listeners. 200K of these bad boys. So someone really wanted to play out there in the July. The question when those started going up, are they closing this vertical finally? The answer is no. We saw from the OI that vertical is still open. People just coming to play for size in the July 40s, followed by number 2, the SEP 60s, $1.12 of those. So that's our friend from the top 10 there as well. Actually, those are Nov 60s, so those are not even in the top 10. But a lot of interesting paper on the SEP 60s and the Novs. Nov, 92,000 of those, maybe a bit of a roll from SEP out to Nov, even though interesting timing for that, if that is indeed the case. Number 4, we got 43,000 of the SEP 30s. And number 5, we've got the OC 17 puts, good for 28, nearly 29,000. I know, Mr. Rock Lobster, these calls had to come on your radar this week because it was a pretty sizable print. What are your thoughts on 200,000 of the, on the 1 million day, 200K of these July 40s going up? And also our friend here still keeping the vertical alive here, the July 25-40, still holding out hope as it continues to erode. What are your thoughts on these July 40s and any other VIX prints that caught your eye this week, sir?
Well, there was huge volume, and I almost thought that it could be the return of 50 Cent. You were talking about some of those also the SEP that went up. As I don't think did that make your list because there was just that mass volume printing. So as far as the 40s go, I think that's a little hope against hope at this point. But I did thought that like that huge. I felt like there could be like 50 Cent could be just starting to dip back in, but it was a little expensive. I think they were like 60 cents or something like that. So a little expensive for his cup of tea. As far as the 40s go, though, I don't know what that's a longer road, let's say, a much longer road. So, but it's possible I could see because the SEP VIX has traditionally, summer's over. I could think of probably count on my hand, maybe a dozen like poor October and September periods in my 30 years of doing this. So it's not unseemly to buy some September upside, I would say.
Not unseemly indeed. By the way, I did just check while you were talking on the paper yesterday, the SEP NOV 60s. That was a spread coming at you courtesy of everyone's favorite platform out there. When we're not using Quick Strike and everything else out there, we love to use a little bit of Trade Alert. And looking at here, it was the SEP NOV 60 call spread that went up, looks like, for 18 cents. Actually, 17 cents, actually. It's about 90,000 times. So looks like it could have been a roll, which, again, interesting timing to roll the SEP out to NOV now, but perhaps they think we're going to see the turnaround again. They want to get out while the getting is good. Either way, interesting stuff. We've been talking for a while. Mr. Rock Lobster was just saying the way the futures are lining up makes calendar is kind of intriguing. I don't think this was a straight calendar. It looks like only one leg was opening. So it looks like it was indeed a roll, but intriguing stuff nonetheless. Not a lot of intriguing stuff the rest of the week. I'll just break it down really quickly. Wednesday was 213,000 contracts. Tuesday, a whopping 215, and Monday, a whopping 217. So you can add up Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and still not even get close to Thursday's paper. You add up all the rest of the week pretty much. Throw Friday in there as well. Still not even getting close to Thursday. So not a lot of action. There was some weird prints. Wednesday, we had almost 20,000 of the D75s. If that floats your boat. That's a intriguing strike out there again. But aside from some weird aberrant paper, AUG 95 calls going up 17,000 times almost on Monday. But outside of those kind of weird prints, not a heck of a lot lighting it up. Now, let's go on out now to the product all of you love to fade. Getting your fade on again. Come into Showtime, we had VXX at about 28 1/4. That puts it down about 1 point exactly from where it was this time last show. So getting some of that juice back out again. Let's see. It was about 122,000 contracts on the tape earlier in the show. Let's see if that's increased a little bit. $168 on the tape right now. Listeners, ADV's a little bit shy of 200K, about 195. It's down about 5,000 from last show. So it seems like a lot of the legacy VXX symbology post reverse split issues are behind it. Even like look at the top 10 out here. You still see a lot of VXX1 dominating the tape out here, including, let's just do a top 5 here. Let's see, number 5, 18,000 of our old friend VXX1 SEP 14 puts, followed by number 4, 21K of the SEP 14 calls. Again, all pre-adjusted contracts here. Number 2, 23,000 of the SEP 9 puts. Now we get to an actual VXX contract, 27,000 of the July 26 puts. And the big dog out here still going back to the early days of VXX1, 32,000 of the SEP 10 calls out here. Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you crazies out there love a little bit of eroding products. What was lighting up your tape out there in VXX land this week, sir?
A lot of, what's funny is there's not a lot of interest in calls in there. Overall, just nobody cares. So mostly just people buying puts, looking at the next strikes that are interesting. Like we have talked about, the January puts are starting to get a little more interesting now too as time goes on. So But I mean, the reality with VXX is like this is usually as a product where it kind of, it just slowly erodes and it just sort of stinks. The steeper the term structure gets, the worse it is for it. And it just, again, just slowly goes into Palookaville. What is it already? How much is it down since it was listed? About $13 or $14 or something.
Since the reverse split? Yeah, it's down about $12 since
split.
that. Yeah.
I mean, it's been pretty, anyway, so generally we don't see a ton of paper when it's like this just because it's not doing a whole bunch. So, but anyway, I say that as we probably touch vol lows here, and maybe this will be next week will be the start of something new and shiny. But as of right now, it's a lot of paper hasn't at least lit up my tape as far as VXX goes.
Let's see what's lighting it up out there really quickly today. Not much, like I said, about 88, almost 9,000 of the July expiring today. 28 puts. So go figure. This Zach strike we're hanging out at going out today. Not exactly. And about 8,500 of the July 28 half puts also indeed going out today. Dominating the tape out there in VXX today. Let's go on out to UVXY. As much downside juice as you've been getting in VXX, UVXY is saying, hey, hold my bear. Here we go to the downside. It's down 26.20 coming into showtime. That's down nearly 2 points from this time last week. So we've been saying UVXY is poised, looks like a little bit more downside. 28.25, down about a point for VXX this week. 26 and about a quarter, down nearly 2 points this week for UVXY. So UVXY certainly leading the downside erosion dance this week. Still not leading really on the volume front. About 99,000 contracts. That's down about 4,000 or 5,000 from last week on the ADV side. Again, some of these legacy symbology issues probably dogging this one. Today, about a little over 100,000, 111,000. So paper starting to come back out here in UVXY. Today, kind of the same deal as in VXX. The puts going out today are what's dominating the tape. About 9,000 of the July 27 puts, 8,500 of the July 26 puts, all leading the dance, all those going out today. You got to go down a little bit to find the July 26 books expiring next week. About 7,000 of those trading as well. Let's do a quick top five here in UVXY as well. Number 5, again, pre-split adjusted. We got about 8,000 of the SEP 5s. Then we go out to actual UVXY land again. Number 4, 8,800 of the July 45s. So there are some calls to be found out here and intriguing strikes. Maybe someone put those on right after the reverse split, in which case I feel bad for you. Number 3, 8,800 of the July 27 puts. These are going out today, so those will be gone next week. Number 2, 9,400 of the July 20 puts. And the big dog out here, I use big in air quotes, are back to the pre-split adjusted Jan 1 puts. Almost 10,000 of those bad boys. Those will be hanging out there for a while. Mr. Rock Lobster, I know your preferred vehicle for the dark side dance these days is UVXY. What's been lighting up your tape out there these days, sir?
Just as the vol gets crushed. So I probably bought the worst puts ever a couple of weeks ago. I bought the January 1625 puts, thinking we would get some kind of action out of them. I think via UVXY was 6 points higher, and I don't think they've moved on the vol destruction since I bought them. Actually, I'm positive they haven't moved since the vol destruction. So right now, as I say that, they're probably as good a buy as they'll ever be today for $1.10. So just watching just vol destruction in UVXY. Normally, I wait till that vol is much cheaper before I buy those, but I had bought something else against these puts. But just their crash has been, or the vol crash in UVXY has been quite extraordinary over the last 2 weeks. So mostly everything I'm watching just erodes to nothing. But I think right now, those 25 puts to January 16, the theoretical value for UVXY on just erosion, if VIX is steady, is 22.5 by July 16th. So that just gives you an idea how cheap those puts are relative to the erosion that is possible.
A lot of erosion juice. We were joking, listeners, about cheapy puts out there in Jan. We were joking about the VXX Jan 10 puts. Those are still trading about 12 cents or so. But just a sense of how much more potential erosion is perhaps on the calendar for UVXY. Those same puts in UVXY, the Jan 10 puts in UVXY, they're 60 cents at $1.20. So 6x to roughly 10x. So they are pricing in a little bit more juice to the downside there in UVXY. Speaking of pricing in juice, not a heck of a lot to be found out here in the single names this week. There were a few reports still coming out here. We had Bed Bath & Beyond, Micron, General Mills, and one of my favorite names, the Walgreens Boots Alliance. Sounds like it's straight out of Star Trek. We have actual earnings move results reports from our friends over there at ORATS for these. Walgreens Boots Alliance was yesterday before the bell. Let's see, they were pricing in, they closed at 52.61. They were pricing in 4.2%, and they outperformed nearly 7% to the dark side. So there we go. Maybe a little bit of vol coming back in. Micron was at almost 85 even going into their report. They were pricing in 5%. They delivered 5.2%. That's more kind of in line with what we've been expecting. The season kind of averaging out now to about 74% listeners. So once again, a blood red season for vol buyers. Will that worm turn next cycle? I don't know. We've been saying that for a while, so starting to sound like a broken record. But eventually, the worm has to turn. We shall see. Meanwhile, it's time for us to see what you folks have on the brain. You guys are coming at us in droves. It is time for the volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options. or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, a lot of you getting at us to see how many we can get on the show today. Let's start with this one, Tom, right up your alley here from BTZ. He or she wants to know, are there plans for mini or micro spikes, options, and futures? You know, we've seen the trend, CME, everywhere else, everything small is huge. So, Mr. Tom, BTZ wants to know, are you guys going to go even smaller with spikes, sir?
Well, I'll be honest, we never discussed the micros on spikes. That seems like it'd be a very, very small contract for that typical product. But, we're considering, things are being considered, but, we've definitely taken a survey and the pulse from the potential users, and, having discussions with, just like I said, some of the potential users, but no definite plans at this point.
All right, let's go out to some of the live folks here. Oh, the Flowmaster's in there. He says, nice shout out, Mark. Well, nice platform, Mr. Flowmaster. Right back at you there. And we got Luigi, my boy Luigi. He says, trying to learn as much as I can about tracking volatility. Is there an advantage to using an average true range indicator? Indicator supposedly shows actual true range of movement over a specific time frame. Configure vol mathematically from there. Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you use a few indicators in your vol analysis. I'm not sure about average true range. What are your thoughts on that and its utility for vol trading, sir?
Well, I think average true range is good if you want to get an idea of what you can scalp. So, there's close to close vol is different than ATR, right? So you just, okay, how big's the move, per day? So that's a different move than close to close. So it depends on what you're trading and how you're trading it and how active you are. So if you're like a long gamma trader, which I trade a lot of gamma, I like to know what the range is intraday and see if the implied vol is like at a big discount to ATR. Sometimes it is, especially because now we have weekly. So you have that kind of short-term gamma opportunity, which we didn't have as floor traders. Once a month we did. But I think it's just like, it's like all indicators. Okay. It is a number. And then again, you try to see what you can buy or sell against that number. And then like a lot of trading is just, okay, I have a theoretical value or what I think something's worth, and now you're trying to trade around that value. So ATR is useful in that way, as long as you just you take it for what it is, and it's just telling you how much the stock's really moving, but the big move intraday. So, and as like realized vol tends to understate because it's just close to close, kind of like some of the action that could happen intraday. So, you have to, understanding what type of vol you're trading, I think is helpful in the short answer.
Yeah, technicals are weird in the vol space. If you're talking like ATR on like the underlying, like an SPX or a SPY, yeah, that makes sense. And using that to frame your vol analysis around, that makes sense. People try to apply that stuff to VIX and things as well, and that's where the technicals kind of fall apart. VIX is its own beast. We've had conversations like this many times. In fact, go back in some of our archives. We've had extensive conversations about the utility or really lack thereof when it comes to technicals, specifically when it applies to a product like VIX. That's probably another show we could do again because it's probably coming back up on people's radar. But it's an interesting conversation when you talk about technicals directly applying to VIX versus some of the other underlying. Interesting stuff. We're kind of coming up against, let's see if we get a couple more quick ones here. J4340 says, hey guys, not sure if you were aware, but I can't seem to find Vol Views on Google Podcasts. And it's the only show, it's that only one of your shows that is missing. All the others seem to be there. I got to have my Vol fix. Well, we're with you, Jay. If you can't get it there, we'll make sure. And this happens. Thanks for bringing this to our attention, by the way. If you guys see this on any platform that you're listening to, listeners, and suddenly one of our shows isn't there, hit us up, let us know. We don't always see it in time. What happens is there's something technical sometimes behind the scenes, or what it usually is a lot of these platforms suddenly can change their art requirements. Something as simple as that. I bet I'd probably wager what it is on Google Podcasts. They change what resolution or what DPI, that they get that stringent of what they want for the cover art for a show. And if they change it and if it hasn't been updated on whatever show it is, they may just take it out of their listing. So I would wager it's probably something like that. But thanks for bringing that to our attention, Jay. We will get that sorted out because we agree. All you folks listening on Google Podcasts got to get your Vol Views fix as well as we keep on rolling into that most difficult, most dangerous part of the show. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, let's get to it. And Mr. Unlimited, I told you, take your victory while you can, because Vol can be a fickle mistress. And it looks like you did take a good victory early on. Vol has actually ticked up since our last, since we at the start of the show. Looks like coming to the end of the show here, we got VIX Cash hovering around 14 3/4 or so. Spikes back over the 15 handle. 15.14 is kind of a little bit below it earlier. So kind of hovering around the 15, which actually I do believe if our notes are correct here, our listener, Mr. Unlimited, was at 1492. So that puts him within spitting distance. It's not exactly within our technical 0.1. I know it's a demanding game, listeners, but you are, looks like the closest because Mr. Rocklops was at a 1565. So he's about half a point away on spikes, further away on VIX. I was at a 1605. So I'm almost a point away on spikes and even more, obviously, on VIX. So we'll give a decent close proximity win out there to our listener. If you guys want to play along, there's no prizes right now. It's just kind of for fun, but I know a lot of you have been sending in your guesses. Mr. Unlimited was the closest. We had a whole bunch of other range 17s, 18s, some weird ones out there this week. So well done to you. If you're listening live, you can of course send your votes in. You can always send them in after the fact as well. Maybe if we start getting a lot of the listeners who really want to play, maybe we'll put some fun prizes to work out there. All right, but it is that time now. There are no winner chicken dinners for this week, at least on our side. So that means, Mr. Tom, I shall give you the pride of place. You get to choose. Do you want to go first, or do you want to have somebody else go first? If so, you have to choose them.
I will go first.
All right, have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
On spikes, I'll go with a level of it's 15, 16 now. I have no idea. As a guess, I'll say 1575. A little uptick.
Interesting. A little bit of uptick. A little bit of vol coming back after the long weekend. Not going back to zone 1. Going to hang out still here in zone 2. Easy for me to say. I still want to bust out our Kenny Loggins music again, so we'll have to get a little bit closer to the danger zone. Mr. Rock Lobster, you were closer than I, so I shall allow you to go next. What are you feeling for this time next week? You feeling a little bit more erosion? You feeling zone 1, or dare I say it, are you feeling the danger zone, sir?
It just was music to my ears that you just said, Andrew, you get to go first, because I think I finally beat you, at least got closer than you in one of these things. So I'm doing a dance right now, but where are we going to be? To be honest, with how things are, I would go, what did I say, 15 something last week. I would go, I'm going to say $14.99 for next week. That will be my number, $14.99.
$14.99 for the Rock Lobster. By the way, Mr. Unlimited in the chat, he certainly is learning how to play the game because he's already taking umbrage, Mr. Rock Lobster. He's saying it has ticked up now to 14.82 in the VIX cash, so he should be declared the winner. He's within 0.1 now. So he's learning. They're learning how to take umbrage, just like you, Mr. Rock Lobster. So I have to say, I tip of my hat to them. All right, fine. I'll give it to you this week. You're within a tenth of a point. Winner, winner, chicken dinner to you out there. It mostly for the umbrage. It was quality umbrage. All right. So Tom's at a 15 3/4. Mr. Rock Lobster, what did you say? $14.92 or $14.99, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I would say $14.99.
$14.99 for the Rock Lobster. So no more Columbus for the Rock Lobster. All right. So here we are going into a long weekend. Obviously, we're probably going to pop a little bit on the open on Monday, as a vol usually does. It comes crashing back in. How long that lasts, who knows? Till the end of the week? Probably not out there. But will some other strange event intervene, or will we kind of just drift and kind of linger around here? You know, I have a hard time picking a 14 handle for this time next week, but I was thinking right a little bit north of here, but the Rock Lobster kind of already went there. So to make it fun, I shall go a little bit south. I shall say 14 double, 14.55 for this time next week. So got Tom on the upside, 15 3/4. Got Mr. Rock Lobster playing the middle game at 14.99, and I'm coming in at the bottom there at 14.55. All right, everybody. That music means we're done with at least this program. But if you're listening live now, you're in our pro chat there. And you know what? You want a little more in your ear holes? Well, you're in luck. Just stay tuned. We'll pump some fun stuff in there in between, and we'll be back in exactly an hour to break down the world of unusual options activity with the return of everyone's favorite former TD exclusive show. Now exclusive to you folks. Yes, it's Options Oddities. So stay tuned for that. Some fun stuff afoot here as we head into the long holiday weekend. And before we go, let's go back around the horn. Tom, a lot popping off in the world of MIAX. If folks want to check it all out on Spikes or Shift Search or anything else, where should they go? What should they do?
You can go to MIAXoptions.com/spikes, or just, MIAXoptions.com for everything.
There you go. Give a throw in for the old Shift Search as well while you're there. MIAX.shiftsearch.com. They always do new updates literally every Friday. So let's see what new cool stuff they have in store this week. I know a lot of you are kicking the tires over there and liking it, so stay tuned for that. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks are intrigued, they want to debate volatility with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Go on over to optionpit.com just optionpit.com and go to memberships and check out all the stuff that we have on tap for you.
All right, looks like we got Mr. Unlimited. He's playing again next week. He says 15 double. Oh, so he's topping me by a buck. 15 double for VIX. Spikes 15.65. All right, interesting. We'll put you in the notes. Anyone else wants to play? We're already starting to get some of those as well. I'll have to collate all those. See what you want to play. You feeling more vol or less vol? Hit us up. Let us know. Play along. Get to discover, like some of our other listeners, just how difficult and deadly this, and perhaps rewarding, this game can be. When you hit that bullseye, it does feel oh so good. And we'll see you back here later today for Options Oddities, and then back again next Friday, another Volatility Views.
Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, SPIKE, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's volatility reimagined. Learn more about Spikes at MIAXoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution in trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.